friends, welcome to another edition of Minimal Monday and Minimal Monday Wrap-Up number 62. Um, First of all, I'd like to mention two things before I start this week's wrap-up. I got a couple of emails this week of people that are not really all that familiar with the theme, and they asked me what Minimal Monday was all about. Now, first of all, it's about minimal photography, minimalism. Think of simplifying scenes or whatever you photograph. Think of minimizing the clutter in your photographs. And the Minimal Monday theme is mainly about landscape photography. But of course, you can do that. The idea of minimalism, you can follow that in everything, every aspect of photography that you do. It doesn't necessarily need to be in landscape photography. You can apply this minimalism to even portrait photography, studio photography. Yeah, heck, any kind of photography, you can add a little bit of minimalism to it, and I think it's an important lesson to understand as a photographer that if you can apply minimalism to anything you do, you will get away with a lot more photographs that will become keepers over time. Stuff that is uncluttered will show a very deliberate, a very refined message to your viewer. And I think that once you understand that kind of approach, I think it's a very valuable lesson personally, right? So, think about that for a second, and yeah, tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong, or your comments on that in the comments below, so we can maybe start a little discussion about what minimalism really is, or how do you see minimal? And the second thing I want to tell you before I start is, every week, a lot of people, a lot of photographers add beautiful stuff to it is really starting to become very difficult for me to only feature 10 photographs without making videos that last for hours. And I mean, if I would feature every photograph, then I wouldn't do this anymore. Because I mean, I have a life, right? And I love doing these wrap-ups, but I'm spending quite a considerable amount of time on doing them. And yeah, this is definitely not this little theme is definitely not a competition, like for instance, this week I had to make some really tough calls, and you won't see a photograph by Andy Lee, Nathan Worth, Benoit Janssen Reno, although I made a new friend meeting him on Sunday. I mean, those are big names that I don't feature in this week in the wrap-up, although I really appreciate the stuff that they submitted, and I really respect and value these people's and photographers' opinion. But I believe that by doing this little theme, uh, we can, as a group, kind of contribute and, um, how would I say this? Support the less known people. And I would, in a wrap up, I will always give the benefit of the doubt to the person that is not well known. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, you win some, you lose some, right? And but that's not the point. This is not a competition unless you are how would I say this? You are keeping your Fav of the Day awards, which is not a prize, by the way. I'm not giving away stuff. This is just my token as a token of appreciation to what I think was the best photograph of the week. Anyhow, that being said, I'm already rambling for like 6 minutes. Let's get on. Let's get on this wrap up for this week, and I give my minimal Monday Fav of the Day award this week to Michael Salmina. I screwed up your name. Michael Salmila. Um, Michael added a beautiful minimalistic long exposure photograph of a pier, foggy conditions, and the whole, like, what I loved about this image was just the fact of the subtle amount of light that is in this photograph in the foreground. There's almost this pier gets illuminated by one big giant softbox, and I really like that tunnel effect. The light at the end of the tunnel, kind of. Um, yeah, it's a. I think it's a very hopeful image. It definitely has a lot of again, a lot of meaning, at least for me. In a simple composition, starting the leading lines in the corners, and they end near the middle, and the top part of this square is all light. I really love this beautiful work, Michael. Thank you for adding this. A close second, though, was Quincy Jefferson. His photograph of this diving platform. Now Quincy and Michael are friends, and I have a feeling that this was shot on the same morning. Again, this is pretty much Quincy's style of photography. I like this a lot. I like, personally, I like things in the photograph that have a certain add a certain dynamic aspect to a square. And in this instance, the square of the frame of the photograph is almost reflected in the squareness of that diving platform, and it's pretty much photographed very symmetrical, and so the diving platform, or whatever you want to call it, forms a nice diamond. I like the amount of detail, the nice reflection. Beautiful work, Quincy. This is photographed by Dane Reist. Oh yeah, I love this. This has such a soft feel to it, and not soft as sharpness, but just the amount of curves in this photograph. This is all about shapes, deep dark blue skies, and then the beautiful hill. It almost reminds me of the soft shapes of a woman, and then that fluffy little cloud, barely there, but it's there. Adds a beautiful, an interesting added. It's an interesting added element to the photograph. It At first it strikes you as being kind of in a weird spot, but it definitely holds the composition in balance. This is really good work, Dane. Dwayne. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Dane. I hope I'm not offending you. Beautiful work. I think this is your first entry. Hope I see some more work of by you. This is another beautiful photograph that I wanted to share with you. Maybe not as minimal, but this is world-class black and white photography, in my opinion. This is photographed by Derek Kent. Again, if this was square, this could have been part of the new series by Michael Kenna. Maybe Michael Kenna would, simplify the sky a little bit more, but I like this. This has such a beautiful sense of illumination, and my eye just follows that little stream, and just beautiful. Like, this is pretty much this is almost using the rule of thirds, but in an 8x10 or 4x5 kind of frame. I love the foreground detail. This is absolutely world class, my friend. Beautiful work. Here's something I would photograph as well. A photograph made by Gerard Charnley. He photographed these windswept trees, and I don't know if they were windswept by the actual wind at that day, or they actually grow that way. Either way, although a very simple, rule of thirds photograph, what is dynamic about this photograph is, the shapes of the trees, and you really think that this was photographed on a stormy winter day. And I want to start off this section by saying, here's an interesting little photographic trick, and that is the power of repetition of shapes, repetition of objects, forms, and definitely something you see in stuff like this. For instance, this photograph by Ivan Makarov. You see the repetition is obvious, of course. I mean, the shape of the electricity pole repeats itself over and over and over and over again. And, oh my god, I'm going to say a difficult word. The diminution, I don't know what to say. The poles are getting smaller and smaller. That's basically what I want to say. That's the driving aspect behind this photograph, and the same in this photograph by Jim Davies. Finally, Jim is posting something for a theme. Appreciate this a lot, buddy. It's been a while. Jim and I go a little way back. Just when Google Plus started, and Jim and I hung out quite a lot using the video thing, and kind of lost sight of each other. But glad that he was reminded of this little theme that I like to host, and I was honored that he photographed and submitted this. And again, the same trick, the repeating shapes, repeating objects. Beautiful photograph. And again, like for instance, this work by Sandra Parlow uses the same trick. There's this repetition of objects. All right, so minimal photography doesn't necessarily mean or automatically mean you need to add a snowscape, right, or a long exposure seascape. You can use the environment minimalize or simplify a scene. Now, simplification of this scene is kind of tough to explain, but the way Francis Gagnon did it, it results in a very dynamic mountain portrait almost. This is absolutely beautiful work. I can really look at this image for a long time. I like again, this is something that probably was not noticed, or probably not deliberately done, but there's again a repeating shape in this. You have the mountain, and then you have that foreground cloud on the right hand side that actually resembles a secondary mountain almost, and but it's a cloud. And yeah, that's just, I mean, by photographing it this way and exposing, for the mountain and not for the clouds, it gives you that stark contrast that you kind of need, I think, for this. And also the black shapes in the foreground, it kind of anchors the shot and the photograph, and it, your eyes really lock in onto that mountain. Beautiful photograph, Francis. This is a really nice mountain photography that I wish was in my portfolio. Beautiful work. All right, seascapes. This one by Till Muller definitely grabbed my attention. This has such a, photographing on film, this has such a T-Max feeling to it, very contrasty, a subtle amount of grain, like this has film aspects to it. Beautiful work. I like the streaking in the clouds, long exposure seascape, or soundscape, and a beautiful rock that Till found. Beautiful detail in the foreground and in the rock. Gorgeous little, subtle little reflection. And great processing. Like this is, I like the foreground sound. Again, I mean, you can almost count every little grain of sound. Yeah, this is exquisite. Great composition too. And talk about composition. I wanna. This is definitely another one of those photographs that grabbed my attention, because I initially thought, looking at it on as a little preview, I thought, oh, geez, here we go. Somebody that put 35 mil, 35 mil film in a medium format camera, and I really thought those were sprocket holes. And this image is this photograph is was submitted by Julia Sue, and again, it has a film feel to it, not as much as a T-Max film feel, more of a Pan F, maybe an FP4. Subtle contrast, that tree line in the background really has a lot of detail, and that foreground grass is absolutely wickedly gorgeous. And this is an interesting image because there's a fence in the foreground, and by including it, you would almost think as it holds the viewer back. It's kind of it hinders me of going into the image. But then again, this is a smart added element to it, because it really tells me hey, you know what? I do not want to swim in that river, or I don't want to fall in that lake or whatever, because there's like a life preservative. It is there for a reason. So I do not want to go too deep in this image or too deep in this scene. I uh, I thought this was a really interesting added element um, to this photograph, Julia, um, and I really enjoyed this. You took great care in composing this. I like this. All right, I want to share something that um, I think is interesting. Um, this is a diptych that I kind of am proposing to Michael Svensson. Michael added, he was like a machine gun on Monday. He added photograph after photograph after photograph. And all the photographs he added um, were minimalistic, were pretty much, I could have featured them all, you know. But, and I don't know if this is true or not. This is, I think, these are two images that I think work really well together. And first of all, why? Like, what I saw, or what I thought I saw, was this is like a conversation between two couples of trees, you know. And Michael photographed, it almost looks like, and I don't know if this is the case or not, but it looks like this. Michael photographed, I saw these two groups of trees, and he decided to use one group to kind of encapsulate or frame the other group. And Michael purposely, pushed the sharp group in a corner. And there's, I don't know if you've done this on purpose, but by doing this, um, it adds so much subtle, such a double meaning to it. You know, it almost is like, there's these little trees, or just the distant trees are like getting pushed into a situation by this not looking foreground tree, that they're like kind of fighting or discussing stuff. And that's like what I meant with this is like a those two groups of trees are kind of talking to each other. And Michael saw this, and Michael is like kind of the third observer, or the odd man out, and he's watching these guys like battle it out, so to speak. And I like this because in the right image, you would almost say that it was taken towards the trees, and the unsharp trees on the left, standing, it's kind of shooting from one position and going to the other position and shooting back at where you were. That's how these two images, I think, really form a strong diptych. Anyways, that is my opinion. I really like these images. This is great, stark black and white. Although, I think it's color, but stark, contrasty, minimal work. I enjoyed this a lot. Thank you for adding this, Michael. And as the final image, I do want to feature this image by Robert van Koesveld. And just again, this is more, I wouldn't call this minimalism per se, but this is more of an impressionist or expressionistic approach to photography. This is what is called intentional camera movement, but ICM, right? But there's I've seen people doing ICM, the camera movement thing, a lot, and I have to say this is one of the best examples of careful execution. This is this is, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Fleeting. Um, yeah, this is, in my opinion, fine art at its best. Um, you know, this reminds me of a lot of things. Again, repeating shapes. It is not sharp. You know, not only by the ICM, but it is not sharp, right? So you get that dreamy aspect. That, um, yeah. I would almost add too that this looks like film as well. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to feature this because wow, this is good. Anyhow, all right, we have come to the end of this week's wrap up, and again, I'd like to thank all of you for adding your work so generously week after week. Um, I do appreciate it, and like I said last week, I do review every image, and I'm trying to um, make I try to curate this um, as a whole. So my whole little video wrap up kind of tells a story. Not really a story, but the images kind of um, belong together almost. And this week was a good week for that. Yeah, there's some beautiful, crazy looking work in this week's wrap up, and I feel very fortunate that um, a lot of people like these little videos. And anyways, so that was the wrap up for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all next Monday. Have a great week.